I can't tell if all the lines are holding, but what are you going to do? You're not going to go down there. I don't know where else you would have gone here. My name is Ed Frawley. The video you're watching was filmed on the first night of a 7-day fishing trip into a remote cabin in northern Ontario, Canada. We were 43 miles from the boat landing, no cell phones, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. We had gone out fishing and came in at 7 o'clock. The sky looked a little dark, so we thought we'd tie the boat out the way we would normally tie it out for a storm. And at 10:30, we had 80 to 90 mile an hour crosswinds. So the purpose of this video is to show you how we tied the boat out. It was a my brand new Lund Pro V. It had maybe 20 hours. It was just broken. And it came through this storm without a scratch. I took the video because I thought I was going to need it for insurance purposes, because I was sure that it was either going to beat itself to death or it was going to swamp and sink, although you can't sink a Lund boat. This video is just one video of a number that prove that fact. In fact, this is the 4th Lund I've had in the past 11 years. The reason that we were, and I'll say lucky, but there's a degree of skill here. The reason that we didn't have a problem was because of my friend Scott that I was with. Scott and his wife live in northern Minnesota. 3 times a year they go into Voyager National Park. They go 17 or 18 miles back and camp on an island. And over the years, we've known each other for a long time. He's always talked to me about how he ties his boat out. I never really understood all the details of it, but we learned in this video how important it can be.
Jesus Christ.
I'll never take our knots for granted again, will you?
No.
I don't know if all the lines are holding, but you can't go down there. You can drown. Been here when something like this has happened?
So
I hope by watching this video you're going to learn how you can tie your boat out and hopefully come through a storm like this without your boat being swamped or put up on ground. There were 3 other boats that were for this outpost that were 18-foot boats. Mine is an 1875. There were 3 other boats that were on a different, smaller dock that ended up down the lake, up on the ground. Had our boat ended up down the lake and up on the ground, we would have been in deep trouble, because the owner of the outpost never came to check on us until Wednesday night, and this video was filmed on Sunday night at 10:30 at night. So, how did we do it? Here's what we did. When we came in from fishing at 7 o'clock at night, the sky to the west and to the north was starting to show rain. We didn't anticipate it being as bad as it was going to be, and we didn't have access to weather.com or anything else. What we did was turn the boat around so the boat faced out towards the lake. Had we not done that, I'm afraid that boat would have been swamped. I don't think it would have sunk. Lund boats don't sink. We also trimmed up the motors as far as they would go. The water at the back of the boat was only about waist deep. Had we not trimmed the motors up, there would have been some serious damage to the skag on the boat, or possibly the props for the boat. So that's important. We tied the boat on the front bow cleat to the dock with strong ropes. It's really important. Don't underestimate how strong of a rope you could use. I know that there are some nylon twisty fiber ropes that Scott has tried that have broke. So don't do that. I'll show you close-ups of the ropes that we used. So we tied to the front bow cleat. After this storm, we started tying to the cleat on the back of the boat, the hard point cleat on the back of the boat that's attached to the trailer on your boat. So you've got 2 hard points tied to the dock. And again, that dock was built over rock cribs filled with rock. It wasn't going to go anywhere. What could have happened was we tied to the 2x4s that were on the side of the dock that were raised by another 2x4. So there was a way to wrap your rope around it. We had 3 bumpers on the side of the boat. The ropes that attached those bumpers to the cleats to the dock were stretchy ropes, and you'll see how it moved off. An important thing to keep in mind here, and I learned it in a Coast Guard small boat course I took back in 2010 or 11 when I got my first Lund boat, is to leave enough rope, enough slack in your rope that will allow the boat to go like this or to go like this. If we had snugged it up, if this is the dock and this is my boat, if we had tied it up real tight, I'm afraid that boat would have gone like this and swamped and gone in. You have to leave some room for it to go up and down. So that's front, 3 ropes, motors are trimmed up, boats facing out into the lake. The thing that really saved the side of my boat from getting beat up, and I can't imagine what it would have looked like had we not had 2 ropes on the other side of the boat, long ropes that went way out, and they were attached to spike anchors, big spike anchors. There happened to be a big rock, and it was about that big around, that we jammed these spike anchors behind. Those 2 ropes stopped the boat from going and slamming back into the dock. And again, my boat, the morning after this, did not have 1 scratch on it. I was just amazed, absolutely amazed. As I said, this is my 4th Lund boat. I love them. There's other boats on the market that are good boats, but I'll never own a boat that's not a Lund boat again. Not after this. I fell in love with this boat. Now, one thing I should mention is at the front of the boat, you're going to see this great big blue thing that's blowing around. I thought that I would bring this tarp along and drape it over my boat with weights that went over the side. I have 5-pound weights that hung over the side of the boat, 3 on each side, to keep the water out. Not only was it a waste of time, a waste of money, it obviously didn't work. In 80 or 90 mile-an-hour winds, you see what happened with that tarp. It was all blown to the front. One thing that we feel is important, this is a walkthrough, and we left the window open intentionally for the wind to come through there. Was that the right decision? I think it was. There could be people that would argue that the wind could come along and hit the glass and shoot it up. I don't know. I'll leave mine open and I'll do it again. I do have, and I'm going to buy, a bimini top with sides. I'm afraid that had I had a bimini top, I would have left it up. I think it could have been a mistake. Number one, bimini tops are a couple $1,000 if you get a 4-sided one. After I see what happened to the blue tarp, I'm afraid that if it had had a bimini top on it, it would have ripped it right off the boat. There's a hard question there on what's right and what's wrong. Something else that we learned the day after, and we did for the rest of this fishing trip, is at night I would empty my live wells. The live wells on this boat hold 33 gallons of water. I brought a portable bilge pump with me that I fixed with its own wires and a little lithium battery and its own hose. So I had a portable bilge pump. Every night I would go out and I would take all of the water out of the bilge pump on the back of the boat and the front bow of the boat and close the hatches. The hatches on a Lund boat are watertight. I kept clothes in the front of my boat, my rain gear, sweatshirts, whatever. They didn't get wet at all. So by pumping the water out of the live wells and then closing the doors, you add to the buoyancy of the boat. It just makes sense when you stop and think about it. And quite frankly, with the spare bilge pump, it only took a couple of minutes to pump it out every night. I don't think in this situation you could be more careful. And when you're that far back, you have to really think about mistakes that you could make. You can do everything right, but you still have to have a degree of luck to get through this. One thing we learned the hard way is that take an inventory of your ropes, take an inventory of the things that you're going to leave on the dock at night. We had left a rope that we didn't use laying on the dock, and the next day when we went out fishing, we didn't realize that when I started the prop on the boat, it got tangled around the prop. Luckily, we only went a short distance and wondered why did the motor sound like that. So nothing left on the dock if there's even an idea that there's going to be a storm. And that's an important thing to think about. In Northern Ontario, and I'm an American that grew up in Canada and worked by Hudson Bay when I was in high school and fell in love with fishing. The one thing I know about Northern Canada, and I've been doing fly-ins since 1993, is that the weather can turn bad in a heartbeat. I mean, it only takes a few minutes when you come in from fishing to set your boat up the way we set ours up. When you bring your boat in, turn it around on the dock. Figure out which way the wind's coming. If the wind's coming from the right, put your boat on the left side. The group that was there before us, they had a storm. It wasn't anything like this storm, but they had a storm, and one of the guys said, hey, we did have a storm. Put your boat on this side, on the right side of the dock when you're facing out. He says, that's what saved my boat. If my boat would have been on the right side of the dock, it would have been beat to devil. I can't imagine what it would look like. One other thing that we do automatically is for an outpost, this outpost had no electricity. They had a small generator that put lights in the cabin. We brought our own generator with us. It was a Honda 2,000 watt generator. We plugged it in every time we could. When we came in for lunch, we plugged it into the generator. My boat has 4 batteries, and we tried to keep them charged all the time. You don't want to have a situation like this and have your main bilge pump in your boat run out of power. So keep your bilge pump charged. So when I got back from Canada and I started editing this video out, it made me realize how important these 2 long ropes that go out on the port side of your boat to those spike anchors were. And I looked on the internet and I couldn't see anybody that was selling good quality long ropes like that. There's a lot of places where you can buy nylon ropes, but my buddy that I was with I told you he goes into Voyageur National Park for a week at a time, he and his wife camping, and they camp on an island for a week and tie his boat out. And he's gone through and tested other ropes that just fray, and quite frankly, they're not safe enough. But I produce dog training videos for a living, and I have for 40 years. For the last 30 years, we've sold police tracking lines that are 30 feet long, made out of this made out of this 3/8 inch Beavis rope. And I decided, well, why don't I make one and make it available for people that want it? With a heavy duty stainless steel carabiner that's not gonna rust and a 50-foot rope. It's your decision how much of that 50 foot you're gonna use, but the further out it is, the more holding powder it's gonna have. But remember, that has to be to a large spike anchor, not one of those little ones. It has to be a big one. We were lucky in Canada because we got our spike anchors behind a pretty good sized rock that was out there. And if that rock wouldn't have been there, we would have needed 2 large spike anchors and really push it down into the bottom of the lake, sand or even a hard bottom. So I put the URL on this video, and if you have an interest in it, we sell it. In closing, this is footage that I filmed about 30 minutes after the end of the storm. We walked out on the dock to see if there was any damage to the boat, and there wasn't. That yellow cord you see there is the power cord. We had the boat plugged into the generator. We moved the generator in the middle of the storm, which you saw, but we did not pull the electrical cord out. But there were no damage other than my blue tarp, which you see there with the weights on it. Now you notice that the cleat on the back of the boat did not have a cord or a rope tied to it right there. After this, we did tie to that cleat. During the storm, we had a bow line, but we didn't have a rope on the back of the boat. And from that point on, we always had a rope. So this is the end of the part of the video on me telling you how we tied the boat out. I decided to close the whole video out by including 5 minutes of uninterrupted video of what my friend and I went through for over an hour during this storm, just to give you a feel for how nervous we were, and you can hear it in the sound of our voice, and how many times I say, "Do you think the lines are holding?"
So that tree went down right there. Thank God we turned it around. You think it could sink? I can't tell if the front line is off, but I don't want to go down there. It's too dangerous. Does it look like the lines are holding? Yeah, I do too. Probably get in here ourselves. I can't tell if all the lines are holding, but what are you going to do? You're not going to go down there. So where else you would have gone here? Jesus Christ. I'll never take our rotten knots for granted again, will you?
No.
I don't know if all the lines are holding, but you can't go down there. Then you can drown. Been here when something like this has happened?
In closing, I'd like to thank Greg and Amy at Staples Sports in Cushing, Minnesota, for selling me this boat. This has not been a paid commercial, or I'm not getting paid from them to say this. These are good people. My family and I have bought more than one boat from them, and they deserve the recognition that they get from this. Thank you for watching. My name is Ed Frawley. I own Leerburg Enterprises, Leerburg.com in Menominee, Wisconsin. I hope you got a few good ideas about how to tie your boat out in a storm from this video.